everyone. Welcome to Psychology and Spirituality, a Bridge to Better Life discussion. Here I am. My name is Marcia Trajano, and with me is Rafael Rezende. Hi, Rafael. How you doing?
Hi, Marcia. I'm very good. Better now with you.
So good to have you with us. Just so you know, we those are weekly episodes that is published on Fridays, and together in this what I hope to be a lighthearted conversation, we're here to explore this intersection, right? The where spirituality and psychology meet, and as a result, we get a little bit. More wise, I guess, in some questions. But anyways, for all of us who is here with us today, just know that I propose, Rafael, that we explore the depths of our personal growth. So, as we know, this very individual journey, right, that each one of us will go through, and it's a journey of spiritual evolution, spiritual growth, and of course, a topic that Joanna de Angelis brings front and center in just about every book that she has written, which is the transformative power of self-awareness. And Joanna explores this metaphor of human existence, right? Yours and mine, all of us. It she speaks of it as a river that flows toward an inevitable destination. And as a river, we can all imagine in our mind's eye this water flowing, right? We face obstacles, but we also experience growth. And ultimately, we all reach new levels of understanding and actual connection with ourselves, hence the power of self-awareness, but also connection with the world at large. So, Rafael, it is so good. I mentioned to you already, but it's good to be able to hear from you and your insights on this journey of self-discovery. And yes, a journey plentiful of challenges. Each one of us has it has a different type of challenges, right, Rafael? But all of us are going through something that is painful, I would say, that is difficult, that is challenging. And we need to be there knowing, being aware that we're all going through similar paths. So can we, Rafael, maybe unpack that meaning specifically of what makes up the majority of our struggles, right? And on a psychological perspective, can be understanding that repressed side of ourselves, our shadow, and how we need to embrace that, but also to understand that whatever we do, we come out like the river that Joanna de Angelis references to in a better version of ourselves, which I would call a more authentic version, a more conscious versions. So let's maybe start by talking to the paradox that health and well-being is against illness or sickness. Can we talk a little bit about it?
Yeah. So again, very nice to be here, Marcia, and hello everyone again. So this is a very important text from Joanna, and I think it's very useful for the days we are going through, which are not being easy to anyone. So I think, contrary to most of us, at some point of our lives, we think that life is just to enjoy, and
Mm-hmm.
that the whole life is going to be a bliss, and you're
Right.
always going to be happy things happening. So, but then, you are a child, everything is okay. You become a teenager, most of us are okay. Then you become adult and more mature, and problems start to happen. So, several types of problems. It could be economic problems, social problem, and physical problems, mental issues too. So the point of life is those challenges are critical or crucial for our development, for our evolution.
Yeah.
So if you don't have challenges, we'll never grow. So that's the big point. And one of the things that Joanna mentioned, and I think is very important to bring here to this conversation, is the concept of health.
Yeah.
Because many people think that being healthy is the absence of sickness, but that we know this is not true. There are so many people that are nearly dying, but they're very happy. They're very healthy.
Yeah.
So how can this be?
Yeah.
And that's the paradox, because we as human beings incarnated in this world, we tend to believe we are our bodies, but
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
fact, we are not. So many diseases, we're talking about disease, but that could apply to any problem. But many of diseases that affect us are actually our true healing. That's how we're going to be.
And this is hard, right? Let's just stop everyone, because Rafael is saying disease is really what makes us healthy. And tell us more, Rafael, please.
Yes, disease is what makes us healthy. So
Yeah.
that's really weird. Many
Yeah.
people may be, what this guy talking about? So that's the truth, because what the disease does is actually healing your spirit. So for many, many existences, for centuries, we've been going through doing some bad mistakes. And as we know, everything that goes against the divine laws,
Mhm.
against our consciousness of being creatures created from God,
Mhm.
everything that goes against it, it's going to be somehow stored in our spirit. And this is going to be somehow hurting us for a long time, until a point where it hurts so bad that you want to have it gone. You want to fix this problem. And the only way to fix it, when you come back to your body, a new body, come back to this earthly life, and then you somehow manifest those soul problems
Yeah.
in your body. And in that case, imagine like your spirit is just cleaning by throwing all these things to your body. That's gonna die anyways. Believe it or not, we all gonna die. The body is
Mhm.
gonna die, but not us as our essence, as a
Yeah.
spirit. So by doing that to the body, which is gonna die anyways, you're just cleaning or cleansing or
Yeah.
healing your
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, if I may, right? When you talk about we are here looking for a blissful life, right? What would that mean? A life, and that's what we want for our children, for example. That's what we want for ourselves. But most important, when we become parents, we want, that's right. That's the most common desire for a parent, to have this baby that becomes an adult, to have a happy life. And Joseph Campbell is known for his phrase, right? Follow your bliss. And it's just very interesting, because bliss in this case, at least as how I understand it, Rafael, it's not necessarily a life that is devoid of work, of challenges, of opportunities for growth, right? But it's a fulfilled life. And I think it is so important for us to then understand that underneath this sense of fulfillment, then there's a question of what is the meaning of life, right?
Mhm.
Why are we even here, as immortal spirits that we are, if there is no plan or objective? I'm speaking, I'm a project manager. I think you know that, in my professional life. And the first thing we do as we created a project is, why do we need this project, right? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? And only once we meet the objectives of that, we say it was a successful project. In our case, the successful life would be, did we did we fulfill our quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes here, quote unquote, mission that we came here for, right? Which goes back to what you're saying in terms of the paradox of sometimes being sick is what's going to lead us to health.
Yeah. So I think we very often confuse the word joy and happiness. They're very
Mm-hmm.
different. Joy
Mm-hmm.
is an emotion, happiness is a feeling. So those are
Right.
two different things. So sorry, joy, it's gonna happen very often in our lives. Some people, you can just be walking around and talking, making, someone tells you a joke and they laugh, so you say you're happy, but actually you're joyful. It's different.
Yes. Yeah.
So what I mean by, when you think that our life is going to be pure bliss or pure joy, is
Yeah.
just we think that no challenge are going to happen. But when now most people, including the one you mentioned,
Yeah.
uh, thinks about happiness and in the true way. So you can have your challenges, you can have your problems, all this, bad and situations that happens in our lives, but you can be happy. You may
Yeah.
not be joyful at that time, but deep down you're happy. Your consciousness is happy. So this is different. It's even hard to explain because you're talking about feelings which are very abstract,
Yeah.
right? So I don't want you guys to get me wrong in a sense that we need to live this life to suffer. That's not the point. We are not here
No.
to suffer. You're
Yeah.
here to learn how to find peace and happiness.
Yeah.
But we are looking for tranquility and joy, which
Yeah.
are things completely different.
Yeah, and I would just pause for just a minute because you mentioned the difference between an emotion and a feeling. And to me, it would be maybe good for us to also unpack that because emotional response, an emotion, is always a response to an external event, right?
Mhm.
And interesting enough, it is, we share, right? It's a very universal response. And there are
Yeah.
many studies about it where if I was born, I don't know, from aborigine, I don't know, even if it's the best word to say, but a native tribe in a secluded island and the most cosmopolitan of the cities, and it doesn't matter. My emotional response of laughter, of tears, of sadness, etc., etc., it's the same. It's very universal, including how facially we respond to those events, those external events, and they're there for a reason, right? Many of them are response mechanism to either protect us, right? And the protection can be in the, is it the fight, flight, or freeze events? So the fight would be anger, where we are we adrenaline flows into our body and we're ready to fight. There, that is that anger, the emotion leads to a certain level of behavior to get rid of, to safeguard ourselves. Where the flight, which is fear, right? And in the animal kingdom, for example, you see those different strategies from events, right? In some cases, you have to flee to save yourselves. And finally, freeze, which is also, we could say, the sadness that may lead to, in a pathological aspect, to depression, right? And that freeze, right, where you stop. Some animals also do that as defense mechanism, pretend that you're dying. Anyways, from outside, and a response that is hormonal as well as that emotional aspect of our lives. But when we talk about the feelings that you mentioned, now we're talking about what do I have or emote from within to those events, right? And I think at that point, you can be happy in the midst of, let's say, I don't know, chaos, war zones, or a life of a very socioeconomical challenges, and yet we have that sense of happiness because it's from within. It does not necessarily have to match the outside external. And I think this is important as a pause, because it tells us perhaps, Rafael, that when we're saying, yeah, I want my bliss, I want to follow my bliss, I want to, but if I am not fulfilled, say, back to that sense of meaning and fulfillment, then I may find emptiness, right? And Joanna talks a lot about those existential emptiness. On one hand, she also speaks of guilt, which goes back to what you're saying earlier about a long lifetime with many existence, where perhaps there's so many failures or missteps or errors that we go through that accumulate in our sense of guilt to a lot of pain. So, in the construct of a very long life that we all have, it's important for us to understand what do we need to meet whatever it is that we're carrying, our burden, and that may be different. I think different 8+ billion ways to be different because all of us are very unique, right? But what is it that you're carrying? What are the pain points that you're carrying with you that no matter how well everything else outside is, you're not happy, right? You
Yeah.
may be joyful, as you mentioned, Havel, but you're not happy. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that, if you want to, Havel.
Yeah.
How can
So,
we explore that sense of comfort, that sense of belonging, and potentially happiness?
I've been thinking about this
Mm,
question for many, I would say, years now.
mm,
Um, how is that possible? And you see someone apparently having everything, and then they have this sense of
yeah,
emptiness,
yeah,
and depression, and all of these things. So one thing that I came to a conclusion is that what we need is to be useful. We need to feel and to
yeah,
realize we're useful. So, and that's the biggest point. When you become to help others, I mean, you understand you need to help others. So you are here to help. That's the purpose of our lives. Help others. Because in that sense, you're helping yourself. But when you realize that, you have the sense of usefulness. And that's what makes this, fill you up completely.
yeah,
Something is now changing. And that's why Chico Xavier usually used to, I think also Divaldo mentioned that many times, that if
yeah,
you're depressed, the only way to cure it is to work to others in a
yeah,
sense that you're helping others. So, because somehow there is an explanation, maybe a physical explanation, but this feeling of being useful, it's what fulfills you completely.
yeah,
So I think it's easy as that, but at the same time, it's something very hard to do. And I'm not saying here you don't need medications, you don't need things to help, but it's important to mention that what these medications do if you're depressed, for example,
yeah,
and imagine yourself in the middle of a lake, and what the medication does is just throwing you um, that a device. I forgot the name now. I blank out. The device to make you float. It's like the floater. So it's
yeah,
just to give you the floater,
yeah.
but it's not going to pull you out of the water,
That's an interesting analogy. I really like it. Yeah,
right? So what the medication does is not they don't let you drown. They
yeah,
don't let you sink,
yeah,
but it's not going to take you out of the lake. out of the water. So you need
Yeah.
to have something, and
Yeah.
this something is the desire, um, uh, willing to move. And
Yeah.
that's what most people, most of us are actually sleeping spiritually. We are
Yeah.
not moving. And how can we possibly move? By helping others. So it's, see, if you think the commandment, the most
Yeah.
important commandment, love God above all the things, but love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's
Yeah.
it. You
Yeah.
don't need to
Yeah.
do anything else.
I love it. And she, Joanna, spends a lot of time with the difference between, or the scale, the levels of service, right? And if you think in terms of charity, we can call it love in action, right? When
Yes.
you're serving, you are expressing love and compassion for others. And then she goes into, at a highest level, is the sense of altruism, where you're doing for the others not out of generosity, but you're doing for others out of taking away from you for your own comfort, if you think about it, to help the other, because deep inside of you, you are moved that there's that philosophical term that African nations do, the Ubuntu, right? I can only be happy if you're happy, right? But I am sad if you're sad. So that's the sense, I am because you are.
Mhm.
And that deeper connection, person by person and collectively speaking, at some point we'll all be at that level. Not everybody is, but there are many studies about altruism that is quite interesting. But I wanted to, if you don't mind, Rafael, let me go back couple. Let's rewind today, because you talked about the notion of existential emptiness, or the experience of feeling empty, regardless of a very full life. Right? I may I may get up in the morning and go, and I go to work and I do this and I fill my schedule, my agenda with so many things, yet there is that existential emptiness. And when Joanna writes about it, she says it is a haunting inner void, right? It's something that's haunting you, that void. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. There is a hole inside of me. And she also say it can also be the loss of meaning. So there we go back again with the idea of fulfillment and meaningful life. But beyond that, and I think it's important to bring here to us, Rafael, is the fact that she says, please do know, she didn't say that, this is me saying, but please do know that those feelings of existential emptiness is not a sign of failure, or even of a sign of illness, right? She says, and I think it's beautiful, that's why I'm bringing up to us here. She says that the experience of existential emptiness, it is a spiritual symptom of our soul's disconnection of our divine essence, which goes back to what you're saying, that a sense of if we don't fit or follow or obedient to the divine laws, we are creating waves, if you will, and that leads us to moments of difficulties, right? And I just think that maybe we can talk about what causes it and how do we uh, lessen the
Well,
difficulty. What do you think?
yeah, I think that the problem is, we all, when we wake up spiritually, we begin a huge battle against our
Yeah,
old selves.
yeah,
So that's the biggest challenge. You begin to understand that for somehow, for many centuries you've been doing wrong things, but at that time you begin to realize that okay, for somehow you're tired of doing wrong things.
Yeah.
You are tired of this all this I would say I like to call them like world callings, because the world is calling you but in a bad way. So
Yeah.
you begin to get, all your friends, you begin to be weird to all your friends. So what you're talking about? Let's go to party, let's go to that place, let's go there, let's drink,
Yeah.
let's, and then you begin to feel like out. Something is wrong. And if you do something bad, or you talk bad about someone, or you do something that it goes against your consciousness, you begin to feel sad because what am I
Yeah.
doing? So all of these things, it's a big battle, but this is a good sign because you finally woke up. Finally
Yes.
woke up.
Yes.
So
It's
that's what you,
it doesn't feel right, but it's absolutely the first step to real growth, right?
yeah, that's how you begin to get to know yourself,
Yeah.
right? And change. You have to change the way, you cannot change the past, but you
Yeah.
can do a better future. You can make a better future. And how you make a better future? Acting now in the present.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's how, this battle caused lots of problems to us, because
Mhm.
for many times we believe, okay, we are failures. I mean, I just failed this, so what's wrong with me? I know this is wrong and I'm doing it again. But you have to think that you've been doing that for so many centuries,
Yes.
and now you're finally trying to get it fixed, to get it better. So it's a huge improvement. So
Yes.
you
Yes.
cannot blame yourself, because when you blame yourself, you kind of go backwards. You walk backwards, and that's
Yeah.
not what God or Jesus or your guardian angel. It's not what they want for you. So when you realize, okay, I did it wrong, but as Jesus said, I'm not gonna look back. Just look ahead. Get my cross, put on my shoulder,
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah.
That's the
I love
point.
it. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
understand
So
that, so you kind of understand what Jesus mentioned about, this following him. It's actually lighter than we think.
yeah, the burden is much lighter than we
Much lighter. Yeah.
anticipate, right? But I think it's also interesting because if you think about it, right? We mention the reason for that is that you're disconnecting, and what does it mean to be disconnected? And in my opinion, I'd love to hear from you that disconnection, right, with our spiritual, our divine, our sacred within, just simply means that we start to become so identified with our ego, our material aspects of our existence, that that call, like you mentioned, that call to go out drinking, not that it's bad, but it's just like, is it necessary? Or the other side of it, or other example, is a life that you are constantly um, living outwardly instead of inwardly, meaning that for me to be considered successful, right? And this is, it plagues, I would say 99.9% of our population today. This is, there's no statistics. This is my saying here. We are plagued by the need to, to be validated, and we seek those validation. How? Well, by possessions or by titles or even education, which is a noble thing, but maybe I don't educate myself because I'm doing something, but because I want the respect. So it's always
Yeah.
external validation.
Exactly. Once I
Yeah.
was in an interview and a guy asked me, "What is success
Yes.
to
Yeah.
you?" He's a like entrepreneur, so he's an MD. I mean, a physician, but
Yeah.
also this guy, and he was expecting me to say, "Well, success is you have everything you want. You have your titles, you have
Yeah.
money, you have comfort, big house." And I said, "No. Success to me is just look at Jesus. So he was crucified. He had
Yeah,
no even a single cloth to wear. He
yeah,
had no place to be buried. He had nothing, but at the same time, he had everything, which means spiritual. So success is when you understand yourself, you get to know yourself, and you finally begin to follow him. So this is not what people usually want to hear. And it's funny how this thing about the world calling you. I was talking to
oh,
a friend in my work, and he asked me, so what do you think is going to happen in 1,000 years? I said, well, in 1,000 years, I think we're going to be way better. Earth is going to be much better. So there's not going to be violence. There's not going to be, sadness or crimes. It's not going to even have alcoholic beverages. And then he
yeah.
said, no, 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 I don't want to be in this earth. So, you see, so that's how most people still think, because for them, happiness is what the world brings you, the pleasures that the world brings to you. But one day, the same guy is going to wake up and realize that, okay, this is not what me as a spirit is looking for.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and that's when everything changes. And this battle I just mentioned begins. And
yeah,
eventually, you're going to win. So, there's no other way. You're going to win. The point is when, how long it's
yeah,
going to take.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. Because we
yeah,
have like eternity to win.
yeah.
I think it's quite a long time if you think.
It is quite eternity is quite a long time, right? That idea of immortality scares me a little bit because if you're in a that vicious cycle of just work, and many of us are. I have to really be respectful of our journeys, but we work so hard and and we're just doing so much, but no matter how much we accomplish, if it is based on those external validations, it doesn't fulfill you. I always remember Rafael talking to my dad. This is many years ago, and I said, "Oh, Dad, my dream is blah blah designer car." And he looked at me and he said, "Okay, what you gonna give up to get to that super expensive car?" And I was a teenager at the time, so I said, "Oh, this and that." And he said, "Do you realize that the car will be new to you in a source of pleasure for maybe 3 months? By then the smell of brand new leather and this and that will be gone. Your car even may go through a crash or whatever, and all that you gave up to get that one goal is
Yeah,
gone."
yeah.
So think about it. What is it we want? Because it's our lives. I mean, we have our free will, right? But I want to tell you, do you mind if I pivot to a different topic
Oh, absolutely.
within the same topic, right? Which is the idea of how to embrace our lives, even when it means that we're going to have many obstacles. And one of the things that if I go back to Joanna de Angelis, she really recommends Rafael the idea, or she mentions the idea that healing process, because you mentioned the paradox between sickness and health, right? And she says the healing process really begins with that self awareness, self knowledge.
Mhm.
And how, if we're to ask Joanna, but how do I do this? And she's very free to give those tips to us, which is self analysis. She always recommends meditation or even reflections on our daily experiences, right? At the end of the day, following St. Augustine, what did I do? Did I do good? Did I did not do good? What did I miss doing, what did I neglect doing, that inventory of our day on a daily basis. But what she says, by doing this, it's an easy and quite evidently based on your day, right? We're not talking about you need to lock yourself in a monastery and pray in silence for months and years, not speaking to anyone so you can get it. No, she says, no, go over that self analysis in your day to day, because by doing this, we start to peel away, to unveil those. Unconscious content, perhaps, that is part of a day-to-day life, but that is moving us for, it is separating us from being our authentic self, right? So those mini doses or daily doses of consciousness is what we need to, at the end, have that sense of fulfillment and a meaningful life.
Yeah, the problem, Marcia, is
Mhm.
that for many people, it
Mhm.
seems very easy, but it doesn't bring us an instant pleasure of doing it.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
are in a mode now that we want to have instant pleasure for everything.
Yeah,
So
that
we
instant gratification, right? I
exactly.
want it and I want it now and I want it to be this intense,
And
right?
when you begin to look at yourself, like Saint Augustine says, every
Yeah,
night you look about through your day, this is somehow gets you. It's very challenging because you're not gonna always see good things. You're actually
yeah,
gonna focus on the bad things you did to fix them. This
yeah,
does not bring pleasure. So what happens? What is the divine solution for that? In one word, pain.
ah,
So that's
yeah,
it. So that's why people are afraid of pain. But pain actually is your biggest friend because it's the pain who is going to bring you to life again and make you understand. Because you agree with me that when you are in pain, we become more like fragile and more
yes,
susceptible to learning things. Obviously, there
yes,
is the period of, not acceptance, but then you begin, okay, so that's my life. How can I change it? Pain is changing you. And you don't need to have pain to do that. But again, we don't do everything Jonah said, or actually we don't do anything. And when you do one night and said,
yeah,
okay, this is boring. Or you begin, you go to the bed. I
yeah,
did once I
yeah,
tried that. I mean, and at the beginning when I was doing that, I was, everything. I turned off the light and I was about to sleep and think about my day, and I woke up the next day. So you don't think about it. So you need to
yeah,
be prepared for that. And I'd
yeah.
even heard like a very famous Brazilian artist saying, I don't like to meditate because it brings me anxiety.
Ah,
Just because I need to be 10, 15 minutes doing nothing, I'm anxious because I have so many things to do. So that person didn't understand the purpose of
yeah,
meditation. So
yeah,
what happens? That person is like working nonstop, nonstop, and
yes,
you
yeah,
want to make money. You want to make money. So what's gonna change? You're gonna have time to look back on your day at night. You're super tired. You're gonna sleep 3, 4 hours per night, and you're again up next day. So what God does? Give you a problem, simple problem, a, a physical issue, a disease,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then you're forced to stop and think about yourself.
Yeah, because that pain, that illness, whatever that may be, that stops you from the that just
That loop,
yeah,
it's
the loop,
vicious.
yeah, going nowhere very fast. You're running and running, but you're in this wheel, right? That it leads you nowhere, just effort spent. But what I find it interesting here is that the pain will dull your senses for everything else, right? So you now have to look at the pain, but with the exercise to change your perspective, outward looking to inward looking, then you start to pay attention to the things that you needed to pay attention quite a long time ago, and we don't. So I
Yeah.
think it's important. On a different note, Rafael, I also think you said this is the solution, pain. The other alternative is love,
Love.
right? So you started by saying that let's be of service. Let's love however we know how to the other. And one of the things that I would say to everyone here is you're not going to like me for saying that, Rafael, but I'm going to say it because it is something that Joanna de Angelis actually wrote about it, which is this reminder that happiness is a conscious decision, not an external circumstance, right? So she has her book, A Happy Life, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Which is a little tiny book, but it with messages that makes us think about it. What is that I need to be happy today? But she also reminds us that she has two books. I don't know if you read them. Full Life and Empty Lives, and they came almost to me. They're like bookends, right? They're
Yeah.
the two aspects of the same problem, which is life on earth,
Hmm.
this very material life that we all live. But she talks in that is that to overcome in her book Empty Lives, right? To overcome emptiness, we must choose what? If it's not empty, it is meaningful, right? It's a full life. So she said, choose meaning daily in every aspect of your life, including the small acts, right? So just for any of you that have not read those books by Joanna de Angelis, uh, three areas that she really says would be good, great tips, I would say. Number one is gratitude practices, right? And many people that I know are doing gratitude journal, and they say, wow, it's like night and day how much. um fulfilled they are since they started to pay attention and be grateful for all aspects of their lives. The other tip, Rafael, is the creating opportunities for creative expression. And she's really talking, and this is something that Carl Gustav Jung talks a lot about it, right? How the artistic expression or right of can be writing, can be music, can be anything, is really important. Our imagination is an area that will make us feel better. And the other one is mindfulness, right? Be in the moment. So I wanted to say, what are your thoughts from this decision to be happy, to be present, to be grateful, to be creative?
Well, so I can tell you a little story about me
Yeah.
if you want me
Yes.
to. Uh, I'm a professor here at Harvard, one of the best universities in the world. So when
Yeah.
I came here, I had this ego. So for many years I was just thinking, okay, I'm very good. So
Yeah.
otherwise I wouldn't be here.
Uh-huh.
And that began to grow in me in a way that I was okay. So life didn't actually matter much. I was just focused on my professional career.
Yeah.
And in 2020, in the middle of the pandemics, I did one day a checkup and a blood test, and I found I had a blood cancer.
Mm,
And the worst thing, this is not going to be curable.
mm,
I have to live with this for the rest of my life. And at that time, I was devastated. I had three young children, my wife, and my work. How can, in the middle of pandemic, we are all isolated? How
mhm,
can I possibly be? Then I begin to think, okay, so this is a blood cancer that could be much worse than it actually is. So I may not be completely cured, but I can live with that. That's good. So, another thing, life, why should I be so focused on my ego in thinking about my job and the way I am? As a simple thing like that can kill me instantly at any time. Why? So I have my kids, my family here. Why do I need to focus so much on published papers
Yeah.
and being famous as I have everything right in front of my eyes, right before my eyes, which is
Yeah.
my triplets, my wife. So, and I have also many other aspects of my body that are working perfectly. So why not to be thankful for that? And then, the disease I have, it's called polycythemia vera. And I like this name very much because I call it Mrs. Vera. So Mrs. Vera is actually
This is,
helping me a
uh,
lot, a lot.
yes.
And to get to know myself, to find my limits. And sometimes when I begin, so for some reason things are getting like spinning off in my head. So then it reminds me, hey, pay attention. Look
Mrs.
what
Vera.
Vera.
Yes.
So, and that's, how I live. And
Yeah.
I'm very grateful now to have Mrs. Vera in my life
Yeah.
because she's actually curing me. She's healing me from the biggest issues that do not come from your body, but come from your soul. And
Yeah.
it's actually made me see the world in a different perspective and actually help others. So help others more than I was even thinking about that. And before, to me, like helping others would be giving money, but
Hmm.
that's not how it is. There is one thing that everybody has and doesn't cost anything, which is time. So
Yes.
I began to dedicate my time to others, not only my family, but at a spiritual house where I work as a fraternal counselor, a lecturer, or I
Hmm.
coordinate studies in the spiritism or any other thing you want to do. You may not do in the spiritism, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But at work, I begin to look at the people who work with me as human beings in the same boat, on the same boat, trying to evolve. So not looking and seeing them different than I am. So all of these things change the way I am. So I could have changed by love,
Yeah.
but I was too, I would say, stubborn.
Yes. We all are, but yes.
So
Yeah.
Mrs. Vera came and
Yeah.
is wonderful in helping me in so many ways that I wouldn't be able to do without her.
Yeah. And I smile, and sorry, I don't mean to be,
No, you should.
to
That's
be,
the purpose.
well, but I smile because I have often said, and I don't know why, Rafael, but I have, and I no longer do it, by the way, but I have in the past, whenever somebody came with the most catastrophic, right? And I said, it's not cancer, right? Hold on, this is the car you had a delayed plane, and now you're gonna miss a day at a workshop in another country. It's a day that you're missing. Or if your tires got got a flat tire and you're late. We catastrophe, I don't know how to say, catastrophize things that are actually nothing. They're little, right? And I said that until the person that I was saying actually got cancer. And to me, it's like you cannot use illness to let people be aware. And then you said to yourself, this is Mrs. Vera, which is quite cute, Mrs. Vera.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Vera is dulling the, I'm using my own term here, all the allure, right? Of, yes, I work for one of the most prestigious um, academic settings in the world, and I have this opportunity, and I'm here because I worked hard, I studied hard. It's not easy, right? It's your own merit, etc., etc. But then it's this beautiful wake up call to all that you needed is already there, right,
Yeah.
Raphael? All that you need is right there with you. And this is so beautiful to hear. Indeed, it is quite beautiful. So when you say pain is the path to wake up, if you will, to be more consciously aware, you speak authentically because you are there, right? You are living that. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Any final words?
Well, I think my final word is, enjoy life, even though life it's challenging,
Yeah.
but you are here for a reason. Um, you are experience whatever you experience for a reason, and this reason is always for the best. So
Yes.
just be grateful and appreciate everything, and one day we're all gonna be able to understand what the meaning of life really is.
Yes.
So thank you again, Marcia, for having me, and thank
Of
you all for.
course. Of course. And I have to say, what an insightful conversation. Another one, Rafael. It's really amazing when we get together and you share such wisdom and perspective, right? Perspectives on the journey of overcoming obstacles, but also the journey of self discovery and how life is really one that that meets that metaphor that Joanna de Angelis brought to us earlier, right? Which is the metaphor life struggles as a river that flows toward the sea. No matter what, it will get to the sea. No matter how many curves and all the things that happen, you will get to it. So it's important for all of us to be aware and to take this opportunity to embrace it, to be grateful, like you said, and embrace all the challenges as learning opportunities and to to love, to be loved, and really be aware that in whatever you're doing, you are the um, conductor, if you will, of this beautiful orchestra, which is our spiritual evolution. But wanted to say thank you, Rafael. Thank you, everyone who's here with us. And if this is the first time you are listening to our program, our weekly talks are there, all of them based on the works by Joanna de Angelis. And I really appreciate you being here. I also want to thank our sponsors, Mansão do Caminho, the U.S. Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and AMI Brazil. Thank you so much, Rafael. Until next time.